Good evening, everybody.
Hi, James.
How are you feeling?
Better,
everyone.
Much better. Hi, everyone.
Good, glad to hear it. Hey, Maria.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Oliver, you still want to go first?
No, I'm okay. Rearrange my schedule. I'm fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
grab something real
I'm
quick.
good. I'm here for the duration.
Anything special I need to say to start the meeting other than hello, welcome, everybody introduce themselves?
I want to say welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to City Council.
Yeah, wish I could say I came back feeling 100%, but I'm almost there.
Just the change in weather.
That too.
Weren't you on a plane also?
Yeah, but I left here sick, honey. I actually felt better when I was there. And then I came back and the cold air hit me and it just hit me twice as hard. I flew first class to stay away from people. I was in a corner all by myself when I came back.
Good evening. We're live, so you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Community Development and Urban Planning Committee meeting. I am Councilwoman Cabrera. I am your chair and I am the council member at large. At this point in time, I would like our council members on the committee to please introduce themselves. Council members, you can each introduce yourselves, committee members.
Hi, I'm Nathan Field from the 8th District.
I'm Shanae Darby from the 2nd District.
Councilmember Spadola.
Hi, everybody. James Spadola at large.
Okay. And Councilmember McCoy, is she with us yet? Okay, well, at this point, we're going to get started. When Councilwoman McCoy arrives, we will acknowledge her.
I'm sorry, I'm here.
Are you there?
Councilwoman Xanthia Alba from the 3rd
Oh,
District.
there you go.
Hello, everyone. Trupi Congo, Council President.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you for joining us. At this time, we're going to start with the first agenda item, which is a substitute to ordinance 21-007, an ordinance to amend Chapter 5 of the City Code to provide for civil fines for owners of rental properties who fail to secure a business license to operate a residential rental property. We're going to pull this ordinance at this time, and we will be submitting a substitute amendment as this ordinance in its current form now conflicts with the legislation that was recently passed. So we're going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 2, which is ordinance 21-008, an ordinance to amend Chapter 5 of the City Code to require detailed owner information on applications for a business license to operate a residential rental property. At this time, who would speak to this ordinance?
I can speak to the ordinance.
Thank you, Councilmember Darby.
Is it okay if we go back to the first one really quick? Because I just want to make sure that it's being, I want to hold it. I don't want to withdraw it. So I know there's a difference as I'm learning. So I just want to make sure that it's held until further notice. So I just want to make sure it's clear on the language.
Yes, Yes, that is fine, Councilwoman Darby. That ordinance will be, we're going to submit a cleaner amendment so that it doesn't conflict with the current legislation. And Councilwoman Darby and myself and anyone else who would like to sponsor that will go ahead, we'll go forward with that amendment. But we do plan to introduce that in a different version.
Yes, we agreed to that. All right. So can I talk about the one?
Yes,
Ordinance
008.
008, yes.
Yes.
So this ordinance is to increase the amount of information that is asked specifically for people who label themselves as LLCs. So you have in the city where some landlords will have multiple LLCs, and there's no way of connecting to who actually owns multiple units. And it could be landlords who are slumlords, right? Who aren't keeping their properties up and were not able to know who is behind that home, right? So I think it's important that landlords aren't hiding behind these LLCs, and we need to know who they are. And we need to put their contact information along with their LLC information. And I just think it's really important to promote good rental housing. And that's by landlords not hiding. Neighborhood stabilization. I think the city needs to know on top of the community knowing. Homeowners. I'm sorry. I thought somebody said something. My echo started going off on my phone. But I just think it's the responsible. It's our responsibility to know and to have knowledge of who these landlords are behind these LLCs in regards to making sure that we're promoting good rental housing and that people aren't hiding behind their LLCs. And it's not hard for the city to be able to contact them in regards to fixing up their property so that our people who are renters are able to live in stable homes and homes that are secure and clean and up to code. So I'm not sure what else I'm supposed to say about the legislation, but that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you for giving us an explanation. And what I would like now is who from the administration can speak to this, because I know that there are some logistics that would have to take place to change the application process. I remember from being on council before that this was an issue with not having enough information on the application with the owners. And there were some changes that were made so that now the application includes additional information. It asks for additional information. But I would like someone from the administration, either I believe the L&I department, if the commissioner is with us, to speak to the current application process and any challenges that the L&I department is having when it comes to enforcement and being able to reach the property owners. Who can speak to this? I believe maybe Commissioner Starkey. Are you with me? Is anyone here from the administration to speak to this?
Councilwoman Cabrera, this is Daniel. I do see Commissioner Starkey is on. It looks like he just came off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, if you could go over some of the concerns that you addressed to me in reference to any changes. First, what I'd like to hear is the current process that's in place. How is that working for the city? Are we able to contact the property owners when we need to contact them for enforcement or for any other reason? If we're not able to, what challenges are we having? And how can this be corrected by adding additional information to the application process?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for allowing me.
Excuse me 1 second. I'd like to recognize that Councilwoman Harley has joined us. And Councilwoman Walsh is also with us, and other council members here. Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Some years ago, some additional information was required on a residential rental license application. One was the big issue was post office box. So no longer can you provide a post office box. You have to provide a physical address for us to contact you. In addition to having a contact person directly as part of the application for us to contact you. In addition to the business license application, there is also an LON, limitation notification, that you have to fill out. And that provides a specific person. Our experience in the past has been, the LLCs are not typically the big people. It's a 1 or 2 person corporation. And we do have information in which you contact those individuals, as well as being able to send notices to those individuals as well. And if they don't respond, obviously we go through the other process of issuing criminal summons, or in this case now civil penalties. So logistic wise, to put more information in there, our systems will not probably in this position now accommodate that kind of data. And I'm not so sure we'll benefit from additional data from what we're already getting. So from our standpoint, we have the necessary information in order to contact individuals. And again, LLCs are not the conglomerate, large corporations that, we can't find them. You may, in several occasions, maybe 1 or 2 that you may not be able to get a hold of, but there is a process in which to proceed with criminal summons or in this case, civil summons now. So I'm not so sure we're going to get a lot more benefit in terms of having more information or would benefit us in terms of that.
May I, if I could just ask the question, and then of course, council members, anyone who has the question, and then we'll proceed to any questions from the public. So if the changes were to be made, how would that affect our system? Are we able to change how we're doing it, or to handle the additional information with the current system? I remember you mentioning something about Munis, and that there would have to be some reconfiguration in order to handle the additional information, that would pose some challenges. Could you speak to that?
Yes, I mean, currently we use the Munis system, which is a software that we use as part of finance. In order to accommodate this legislation, there would be some drastic changes to Munis, and I'm not so sure we'll be able to accommodate that through the Munis software.
Okay. All right, at this point, any other council members that would like to ask some questions? The sponsor can also ask some questions. Councilwoman Darby, did you have any questions of the commissioner or any other council members?
No, I did not have any follow-up questions at all.
Okay, at this point, I can open it to the public. If anyone from the public has any, council members, let me recognize Councilwoman Fields, and Councilwoman McCoy is with us as well.
Council Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, my hand was up. What I did want to ask on this bill is, this actually doesn't change anything for us, our city code right now. What this does is ask the General Assembly to enact legislation to incorporate much of what is in the body of this resolution. Is that correct?
Well, it would be on the application that we have for the city business license. So it would be when people apply for a City of Wilmington business license to operate a residential rental property, it would be the questions that we ask on the application.
I think if you read the synopsis, and I read the bill too, it just seems to bang heads with the state. And so in order for Wilmington or the state to become part of what is needed by towns or municipalities or whatever you want to call them, everybody seems to have to get on the same page. So I think this is a resolution. I mean, look at the synopsis. It says that even.
Well, we're looking at 21-008, so that wouldn't be a resolution. That would be an ordinance to amend Chapter 5 in reference to the applications requiring detailed owner information on application for business license. I'm not sure if you're looking at the resolution on the next agenda item for the valid business license. I just want to make sure you're asking
We are,
a question about the right
Yeah, we're on the
piece of
second one.
legislation.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could you repeat the ordinance that we're on, please? I'm sorry.
Ordinance 21-008, an ordinance to amend Chapter 5 of the City Code to require detailed owner information on applications for a business license to operate a residential rental property. So Councilwoman Darby feels that would like to see additional questions being asked so that we don't have any issues when it comes to enforcement or finding who the property owners are when we need to get a hold of them, when we need to enforce our laws. And per the commissioner, he is stating that the current questions that we're asking now, there were some changes made, that they do suffice, that the L&I department is not having a challenge finding the owners. But the second thing, which I think is the most important, is can the city's system that we use now, the Munis system, can we handle making these changes, enacting these changes at this time? Is this something we might want to enact later on? Is the need there for us to make these changes now? And can we even enforce it? So that is what we're trying to get out of this so that we know what, how to proceed, if Councilwoman Darby wants to proceed with this or not.
Okay, Council Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
the legislation I have in front of me must be an earlier one because it doesn't have a number on it, nor does it have a title on it. So, but the one I have clearly goes through all of those sections, and the end of it is still to ask the state legislature to pass something. So I'm obviously not on the same page as everyone else right now.
Is there anyone else from members of council that would like to speak to this?
Yes, Madam Chair, I actually have my hand up.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, Councilwoman. I've been going back and forth with trying to read the legislation as well, and I didn't acknowledge you. I apologize.
Oh, that's fine. So the question I basically had is, I just wanted to make sure that I got this correct. When it comes to the information that is being asked for or required, this information is being asked of the business owner on paper or through an application online?
On paper, we currently do not have the capacity to do online. However, the good news is that, and Commissioner Starkey can speak to this, that we are moving forward with Salesforce, which is a software program that will allow the city to come into the 21st century and to be able to take applications online. And I could have the commissioner speak to Salesforce and give us an update on that. But right now, in the current version, Councilmember McCoy, all the applications for a residential properties for landlords, for their business license, everything is done on paper.
Okay.
So we do not have an electronic version where people can just apply for a license online.
All right, may I follow up, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then my next question is, what I do understand what Commissioner Starkey stating that I guess when it comes to Munis, the system that we're using, they don't have that capacity. But if we actually have it on paper and this information is, I guess, saved or stored somewhere, when capacity is actually, when we have it, we will already have that information. So I don't understand why will we not opt to get more rather than, wait, I guess, until we have the capacity when it comes to whatever software that's required.
Commissioner Starkey, could you speak to that? And maybe you could speak about Salesforce and possibly with the new system, this additional information, it would be able to handle getting any additional information?
Well, the additional information from our standpoint, I don't think it's beneficial. I mean, we have the information we need to do. We have the information that we're obtaining. in order to contact the people that are responsible from our standpoint. So I'm not so sure we're going to benefit from additional information if we already have the contact information for the individual to respond to violations or complaints or what have you. So, I mean, gathering additional information is really not benefiting the department here from our standpoint. As for Salesforce, we're working with Salesforce to come up with a software to comprehensively have all of the information involving L&I in terms of LONs, rental inspections, determining who owners are versus landlords, private owners versus landlords. We're working with Salesforce to put a comprehensive software together that's able to inspectors are able to utilize in the field and have all the information at their fingertips. So hopefully we're in the process of really testing it now. Next week, we're doing a test run on it, having at least 4 or 5 inspectors test the software to see how it works in the field. So hopefully that'll be up and running before July 1st. And as we're doing that, we're training inspectors as we're moving forward. So having this legislation, from my standpoint, doesn't really benefit us. It creates a problem from a logistics standpoint in terms of the software from Munis. Even if we have it on paper, we can't just pull it back from our fingertips very, very quickly. But we have the LON system in our system where we can access that information relatively pretty fast.
Okay, we have Councilmember Spadola has his hands up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a question for Councilmember Darby through the chair. I'm curious if she solicited any feedback from the landlords. I know she's worked closely with them in the past. Just what their overall feedback is on this legislation.
Yes, I have permission to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, so we work closely with the landlords, the association. So yes, this was ran past them. And they really were, it didn't bother them either way. Like some were like, oh, this is great. Some were like, okay. Like it wasn't like too big of a deal for the group. So it wasn't nothing major. There wasn't much pushback at all from them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I have a follow-up?
Yes.
I don't know if there is someone from legal on here, but if we forget about this having to do with landlords, and we're just talking about corporations, and corporations are viewed as entities by the courts, such as individuals are. So I'm just curious if if legally, a corporation can be forced to list the individuals, regardless of whether it's a property or a business.
May I ask? Oh, I'm sorry.
They're going to be concerned about piercing the corporate veil and bringing on personal liability. I'm just curious if there's a way we can get a legal opinion on it.
Is there anyone from the law department that can speak to that? I'm not sure if Rose is on here because I don't think she confirmed she was going to be on here. Is there anyone from the legal department from the city that can speak to this? And if not, then the sponsor, maybe Councilmember Darby, could you answer that question?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that if Commissioner Jeff Starkey is stating that they already do that it must be legal if they already supposedly collect the information and are able to locate LLCs. So I'm hoping that we haven't been doing something illegal for however long we've been collecting information on LLCs. So I would think that it's not illegal if we're currently doing it now, as Commissioner Jeff Starkey just stated.
Would anyone like to speak to that?
Can I make a correction? I said we're collecting information on responsible people who are responsible for responding to the issues. We're not collecting information on individual partners or beneficiaries or anything like that. We're collecting information who's responsible for either a property manager or responsible person for that LLC. And then our experience has been normally LLCs are 1 or 2 people or even 1 person in most cases.
So, it really is up to the sponsor, Councilmember Darby, how you would like to proceed. What I'm hearing is that the L&I department feels that the information that they're currently getting from the business license is adequate for them to handle the business of enforcement. Anything additional that we might change to add to that would not be something we would be able to enforce or put into the Munis system, even if it is on paper, that perhaps moving forward in the future, we might be able to get additional information, but that in terms of the enforcement, they don't see the benefits of the additional information or the additional work that it would put on the department. Did you mention something about clerks having to do additional work, Commissioner Starkey, in our conversations?
No, I mean, I think would be additional work on finance because the business licenses are issued out of finance.
Okay, at this time, let me open it up to the public to see if we have any feedback or comments from the public, and then we'll come back to the sponsor and either move it out of committee or whatever the sponsor would like to do. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this ordinance 21-008? Not seeing anyone raising their hands. Anthea Oliver, Councilwoman Oliver, yes?
Yes, Chairwoman Cabrera.
Yes.
Sure.
I believe there are two members of the public that have their hands raised.
I'm sorry, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I see Councilwoman Oliver's hand raised. I'm looking. Okay, I'm sorry. I got to scroll all the way down, President.
Yeah, I'm here. I was on mute. I just wanted to ask the question.
Yes.
So, did anybody from the legal come on? I mean, I heard somebody, I thought I heard Councilman Sepola ask a question. I didn't hear anybody from legal answer it. Did anyone ever answer that question, or is there anyone on here from legal?
No, Councilmember Oliver, no one from legal is in the meeting.
Thank you.
And we do have, and I'm sorry, I don't know in which order the hands went up, but I do have someone from the public, Ms. Tanya. Ms. Tanya, if you would like to speak at this time, and then we will proceed with Ms. Shyanne Miller. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hello, welcome. You may go ahead and speak to this legislation, any comments that you might have or questions.
Yes, this is Tanya Washington,
Okay.
Mayor staff.
Yes.
Basically, what I had to say is that we really need to consider these matters in terms of our resources and our capacity to handle things of this nature, particularly when it deals with incorporating new information into our Munis system. I mean, some of the things that has not come up in the committee is that if we have to make changes or we have to add some sort of update on our software, there's a cost related to that. There's also resources that would need to be added to in taking additional information. There's probably resources, additional applications that we would have to, modify our applications in order to accommodate Councilmember Darby's request in adding LLCs. And quite frankly, Councilmember Spadola brought up a good point. I don't know if we can mandate that all the members of a LLC give their information. And I think that that's something that we need to refer back to the law department to get further clarity on. But something of this magnitude, I think we should probably work together in the future, just so we can understand how this impacts the various departments and the various systems.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Washington. At this point, we will take comments from Ms. Shyanne Miller.
Hi.
Ms. Miller, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you. I am speaking on behalf of the Homes campaign, and I'd like to say that we definitely need to see more transparency when it comes to who owns the properties that are being rented out. And this is something that we've heard from homeowners, renters, et cetera, from across the city who are interested in knowing more than just the name of the LLC. So if you were to FOIA information or anything like that, as a community member, all you would get is the name of an LLC. And that is not clear to the community what exactly that means, who is behind that or anything. And so it is disappointing to hear that our departments are not interested in putting an extra, an extra question into this application. The information isn't just for, one person. It would be for the whole community to have more transparency around this particular issue. So I just wanted to give public comment in support of that. Is this public comment only for this piece of legislation, or will we have opportunity to give public comment for other pieces of legislation?
As we introduce the different items on the agenda, the council members will speak first to it, and then the public gets an opportunity to speak to everything that's on the agenda for this evening.
Thank you for clarification. Yes, I'd like to continue on then. Definitely would like to also note that it is something that we have heard from this administration, that there is already interest in reforming the data system that you all have. Passing this bill would not hurt anyone, and it would give more transparency and more benefits to the community to be able to have, again, who it is out here that owns the properties, these rental properties. And we want to ensure also that, if the city really is dedicated to transparency, which I've heard during the passage of the blight bill and all those other things, members of this committee, including the chair of this committee, have said that they're interested in more transparency and accountability. We think that this is one step towards that. And this is also one of the goals of the Homes campaign, the goals of which members of this committee have expressed support for. And so we're hoping that, we wouldn't let something as simple as the addition of one question or two questions on an application be the thing that would hold us back from being able to provide our community with just a very simple level of transparency around who owns the rental properties in the city of Wilmington. I thank everyone for the time, and I look forward to giving public comment in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. And Ms. Councilwoman Oliver, do you still have your hand up? Did you want to make a comment?
I wanted to make a statement because I just pulled up one of the applications, and the information is already on the front of the application. It requests the owner and the address. I understand about the LLCs, but whenever I have, reached out, I'm not against it, but when I've reached out to L&I, they have always provided with me that information. And the only reason why I'm mentioning that about the law department, because that's why people get LLCs, not to necessarily hide behind them, because of business practices with the IRS, et cetera. So I'm in no way for slum landlords to be hidden away, but that's the purpose of LLCs. That's what that was invented for. So I get it, but on the other hand, a lot of the information is already there, but I'm not against because it's I'm not against it totally, but some of it is redundant. I just want to make a statement.
Thank you, Council Member Oliver. I will, if there's no one else from the public that wants to speak, I will make a comment, and then I will go ahead and have the Council Member Darby speak to it again. I do see Council Member McCoy has her hand raised. I'll go ahead with your comments, Council Member McCoy, and then I'll make my comments and we'll proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So my question is more about the actual requirements, or what Councilman Darby is actually requesting on this legislation. Were there specific numbers on here that they felt as though would be, I guess, an issue when it comes to the law department? Because I'm looking at what is it, like 1 through 8 or something like this. And honestly, to me, no, 1 through 9, I guess. And honestly, to me, the one that would actually bring the most, the issue the most would be number 8, because it looks to me as if anyone actually really gets a chance to look at what number 8 is, to me, in my mind, when I read this, I interpret it as we finding out exactly who this LLC person is, and we can actually find out you know, you guys are keeping you guys are keeping this rental property a mess, but yet you own this, you know, you're part of this Fortune 500 company, but yet you're not going to be responsible for what's in your neighborhood, like what you left in our neighborhood. And I think that may be, I think, more of a stickler than a lot of other things on here. And I'm like, just, you know, I'm not certain if that was supposed to be the interpretation of it, but when I read it, that's kind of what I'm looking at, the connection that can be made. So I just wanted to know whether or not, if law, you know, whether or not law could get a chance to take a look at this and find out if there was like something on there that they felt as though would not be allowed or would not be legal for us to get this information. Because other than that, I feel like people need to be held responsible. If you're doing what you need to do for this great profitable company, then you should be able to do that as your LLC with your little apartments or whatever in the city. And that's basically my comment and question. Whether or not number 8 was the biggest issue, whatever, on this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Councilmember McCoy. I see that the Commissioner Starkey has his hand raised.
Yes, yeah, I'd just like to add, I mean, I'm not sure if Councilwoman Darby has ever looked at the application that we currently are using, and we're collecting information. So I would suggest that we sit down and just go over that and kind of look at that and to see if that satisfies her concerns as it relates to information that we're gathering.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councilmember Oliver, do you have a question or did your hand?
No, I was just, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just following up with Councilwoman McCoy. I think that's just where I was. I just wanted to hear the law department mention something about Section 8 also. Like I said, I'm not against it. I just want to hear the legal aspects of it. So that's why I was just going to say, she put up her hand before mine, but that's all I was going to say. Thank you.
Great. I just wanted to make a quick comment, and then Councilwoman Darby, since this is her legislation, can have the last word before we either move it out of committee or if she decides she would like to hold it. I did want to comment on the word simple. It seems simple enough that we should require and ask more questions. But in listening to the people who actually have to implement the work, it doesn't sound like it's just a simple process. There's a cost that comes with it. There's labor that comes with it, and there's additional steps that have to be taken. It's not that we're opposed to transparency, because yes, I am very much so for transparency. And I was part of the legislation when we changed the business license the first time around to ask for additional questions that weren't there in the beginning. Can it be improved upon? I believe many things can be improved upon. With the new system that we're transferring to, could that make it possibly easier to add additional information? Possibly, and that's something that we can look at. I'm very open to that. What I would like at this point is Councilmember Darby can speak to this. Maybe if we could suggest that we sit down and visit this with the L&I department, the finance department, and see the actual picture of what it would look like to make these changes. And if the new software could handle this additional information, and maybe sit down and talk about this a little bit more, especially the law department, with the legality of the additional information that we're asking. Are we able to do that legally or not? And then come to the table. So that's my comments that I'm going to make, and I will let Councilmember Darby finish us off to see whether she wants to move forward, hold it, and we'll proceed with moving it out of committee.
Thank you, Chairperson. May I proceed?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So yes, I'm interested in
Councilmember Darby, you're a little bit, so I'm not hearing you.
Of this legislation. However, I am
Councilmember Darby, can you start over, because I'm not hearing you, so I don't know if you want to hold it, speaking to it, move it. I don't know what. It says something about your bandwidth is low and you're coming in broken up.
Cha.
Technology.
Yes, technology, and we do
Can you
apologize.
guys hear me now?
I can hear you better now. Go ahead and proceed, and I hope we don't want to miss anything that you have to say. Unmute yourself.
She said something in the chat room, Madam Chair.
Let's see, I'm going to leave and come back. Okay, she's going to step out and come back to see if it resets for her there. Okay. Yeah, she is the sponsor, and we want to give her every respect and opportunity to speak to this. And certainly we welcome the opportunity to sit down with the administration and to find a resolution, a way that we can have, additional transparency as needed, and to make sure that people aren't, as they say, hiding behind LLCs. But I know that the purpose when people get an LLC is to have that protection, but there usually is a name that comes with it. And
I got to clean the stuff up.
anyone who is not speaking, if you could mute yourself. Okay, I see someone raise their hand. Let me see. Shyanne, Miss Shyanne, did you have another comment you wanted to make while we're waiting for Councilman Darby to come back?
I do, and I also have a question. Is it the responsibility of City Council to ensure that the Department of License and Inspection has the capacity to be able to take on what seems like, would be a change to different, elements, the application process, your system for what you collect? Because it sounds like it seems like it's the responsibility of City Council to ensure that the capacity is there, be it through, more funding for more staff, or just adding it to them as an unfunded mandate, or whatever you want to do. But just want to get clarity on that.
Well, when it comes to, you have the different powers, you have the administration and you have City Council. City Council can certainly enact laws to mandate that things get done. The administration would then follow through on those laws that are mandated. But at the same time, City Council can't necessarily mandate the administration to do something that's not within the capacity for them to do it. And the one thing that we in City Council have to do is make sure that we're also fiscally responsible, so that every action does have a reaction. And some of those reactions are going to be fiscal impacts. As it is, the city is already looking at a deficit in this upcoming budget year because of the constraints of COVID. So when City Council is introducing legislation, it is best to sit down and speak to the administration and to the departments that are going to be affected by that legislation versus just introducing a legislation. I'm not saying that didn't happen with Council Member Darby or anyone else, but that is usually how things are done. That way you can have a discussion on, can it be done? Is it absolutely necessary? What is the impact going to be? And what is the financial impact? And because what's the point of introducing laws if we're not able to enforce them? We can introduce legislation. That doesn't mean that it's going to be enforceable within a timely period. So what we try to do is to work together to come up with solutions. But there is a distinct separation of powers here between City Council and the administration.
And just to clarify, you just said that so it's like the power of City Council is similar to the power that you took a while ago when you were in City Council, that you said you were able to change the application process, very similar to what is being proposed now, right? So
when that change was made, and the question was put on there, but that question did not conflict with the system that they're using, and it did not require additional work, manpower, or a budgetary item.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify that what I'm hearing is that City Council members on this committee may not necessarily be willing to push forward anything that would make this department have to do extra work to provide transparency for the community.
Well, Ms. Miller, I would ask you not to put words in our mouth or our thoughts. We're going to vote accordingly.
Right.
And I believe in common sense legislation. And if we're going to introduce legislation, then let it be legislation that we can actually enforce versus just having more words on paper that can't be enforced. So at this point, I'm going to let the sponsor speak to this because it sounds to me like there might be some legal issues in terms of what we can even put on there that we might need to further explore before this moves forward. And I would like the council member who's introducing this, Councilmember Darby, to have the final word on this as to where she wants to go with the legislation, so that we can collaboratively either support it and make sure that it is something that we can enforce and that it makes sense at this particular time, and just do what's best for everyone involved. But at this point, Councilman Darby, if you could speak to this, please.
Can you guys hear me?
We
Yeah.
can hear you now. Yes, thank you. Welcome back.
All right, thank you. I don't even know what my first thoughts were when I hung up and came back, but I definitely want to say the legal piece is important. So I do want to get that before moving forward. I also am for the community in regards to accountability and transparency. When I presented this at one of my civic associations, they were on board. They have the same issues with not being able to have that transparency or accountability piece to landlords who hide behind LLCs in our community. So that's where I stand, that's where I am, and I'll just wait for the legal piece and have some meetings about that going forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Darby. So at this time, would you like to hold this and we have further discussion with the law department and L&I and we can bring it back?
Yes, I would like to hold it. Yes, Chair.
Thank you. I do have I see a hand raised and perhaps Miss Renee Sproul wants to speak to this. So I want to give her an opportunity and then we will proceed with the next agenda item. Miss Renee, you may have the floor now.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cabrera. I just wanted to raise a concern that came up amongst some of the landlords, not me personally, to be honest, because I self-manage, so everything is in my own personal name, but from other members of our group, they raised the concern about having our home addresses listed on the application. I know one landlord in particular, I think it may have been Jeff Sheridan, which a lot of people are familiar with. He kind of was wondering when he fills out the application, he puts down like his office information, and most LLCs, they have a property manager, which lists their property manager's information. They have a property manager for a reason, and that person is clearly to manage. But to put down the owner's personal residences, the question becomes why, if L&I has the ability to contact them through other means. And the concern that at least some of the other landlords expressed was from a security perspective. If they have an office address or their place of business, why do they need their personal residence? Because I guess the concern is for personal safety. They don't want a disgruntled person come into their house, knocking on their door, threatening their family because their home address is made public. So I just wanted to put that concern out there. Like I said, it's not necessarily personally my concern, but it's a concern that's been expressed amongst some of the people who this would directly impact, and they're concerned about their personal safety with putting their information out there. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Ms. Sproul, thank you very much for those comments, and that is something to take note and to consider. So I really do appreciate you bringing that aspect to the table. I do apologize that Council Member Dixon has been on the meeting and I did not recognize her, but I am seeing her name there. So welcome, Council Member Dixon. So at this point, it sounds like the sponsor would like to hold this piece of legislation. I'm glad that we had thoughtful conversation on it and that we're going to revisit this and speak to the law department, L&A department, and anyone else that would be, would help us with implementing it. So the next agenda item is a resolution urging the Delaware General Assembly to enact legislation mandating landlords to have a valid business license in order to file a cause of action against tenants. Who will speak to this legislation?
I will, Madam Chair.
Proceed, Councilmember Darby.
I am pulling up. All right. So this legislation or resolution is to go up to the State Assembly in regards to mandating that a landlord must have a business license to be able to put a judgment or evict a tenant. So in other cities and states, this has been implemented. It has proven to actually increase the number of people or LLCs or businesses, people who are landlords, increase the amount of business license registration in that city or state. So pretty much, if they go to court, they got to put a business license number down to be able to take a tenant to court. So that is the premise of it. We have, I have a few state legislators who are willing to be sponsors. So I've already been working it with, speaking to a few people down there or up there, down there, whatever way you want to look at it. So that is the legislation, and I'm open to questions or comments in regards to the legislation from my council members and also from the public.
Thank you, Councilmember Darby. If I may go first, I will say that as the chair and someone who firmly believes that, yes, everyone should have a registered property, for them to be actually taking enforcements against tenants when they're not even on record as being a business owner, having a business license, probably not paying taxes on that either. I believe that this is an excellent, at least looking at it on the surface, it's an excellent, excellent resolution. And certainly I'm in support of it. I think it's, yeah, we need to hold them accountable. At this point, any other council members that would like to comment, and then we will open it up to the public. Any council members that would like to speak to this?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance. I was trying to look for the hand.
Don't worry, go ahead, Councilmember McCoy. That hand is very elusive.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really am appreciative of this resolution as well. This is a great idea, and I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you, Councilmember McCoy. I see that Councilmember Loretta Walsh has her hand raised. Proceed, Ms. Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually gave my reason about 10 minutes ago when I was on the wrong piece of legislation. Yes, I can be very supportive of this. The one question I have in bills like this, and I do not know the answer to it all, but when realtors sell these places to people and they've already been, they're being sold as duplexes or apartment buildings or whatever they are, do they have anything in the sales contract about what an obligation is to someone who would be buying the property? Such as if this is being bought for the intent of renting out, you know, you must look under subsection whatever of the state code as to what rights your tenants will have, that sort of thing. If nobody knows, I can get somebody else to answer it at another date.
Yes, if you can, I'm sorry, can I speak? I'm sorry.
Yes, Councilmember Darby, go ahead. You can answer that.
That's what I was going to say. If we could get someone to answer that question for you, because I don't know the exact answer to that.
Okay. Well, otherwise, I think it's a good resolution to send down to Dover.
Thank you, Councilmember Walsh. Are there any other council members that would like to speak to this? Anybody from the public at this time? It is open for the public. Anyone that would like to speak to this? All right, I do not see any hands raised. Oh, I do. Brian O'Neill. Mr. O'Neill, you may proceed.
I'm sorry, guys. I just logged on, and this is about the licensing. Is that correct?
We are speaking to the resolution urging the Delaware General Assembly to enact legislation mandating landlords to have a valid business license in order to file a cause of action against tenants. So basically, if you don't have a business license, you're not even supposed to be operating a rental property in the city, but you're evicting and you're conducting business and displacing people that you're renting to illegally to begin with, that they're not allowed to do that.
Okay, yeah, thank you for explaining that. I believe, most landlords will agree with that requirement. I'm certainly in favor of that. It just makes sense. There was something that Councilwoman Walsh had asked, and I know that there's a realtor. I think she's still on the listening in on the meeting.
Ms. Renee is with us.
Yeah. Okay. So she may be able to answer that more in an affirmative way, but it is not a requirement for a realtor to disclose what licensing. While it is a good thing for realtors to disclose, they're really not in a position of mentoring their clients. It's something that an attorney should do, and I think we've also made suggestions of what additional things attorneys can add to transfer affidavits, whether a property has the intended use of, for example, intended use of home ownership or rental properties, which would trigger when that transfer affidavit goes through to be paid. It would trigger, hey, here's a property that's going to be intended to be used as a rental. That gives the city an opportunity to go ahead and communicate with the prospective landlord. So, from our standpoint, this is something, most, the more responsible landlords are already doing. And I think you'll get support from at least landlord association, I think would be in support of this type of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Thank you for your support. Because I know that as a businessman and as someone who has rental properties, you do want other landlords to be held accountable to the same standards that you're being held accountable. And it's not fair that some people do their job and they do it well, and others just come in and make money and run these businesses, and they're not following the letter of the law. Ms. Renee, on that question that Council Member Walsh had, would you be able as a realtor to answer that question? If you're able to, if not, you're not certainly committed to doing so. Go ahead, you may proceed to speak.
Okay, and I apologize. I actually stepped away from the computer taking care of a small child.
I understand how that is.
I didn't hear her question, but if you repeat the question, I'll answer the best that I can.
Council Member Walsh, would you go ahead and ask that question about what you had asked about disclosure? When
Sure,
buys a
certainly.
property?
What I basically asked is that when a property is up for sale, commercial sale, and already the property can be used for rental purposes, is any of that mentioned in the sales papers? And if so, is there any information being posted that selling this property for the purposes of renting, that you would have to obey certain landlord-tenant rules under the state law?
So the short answer to that question is no. There is nothing on our agreement of sale. There's nothing, to my knowledge, in any of the papers that are signed at settlement disclosing whether or not how an owner plans to use a property. And they're not required to disclose it at this time. To Brian's point, that speaks to a conversation that I've had with Councilwoman Darby in regards to proposing an ordinance in regards to that, to helping the city identify owners who are planning to use properties as rental properties and getting them registered and putting systems in place to where when they settle on a house and they disclose that on an affidavit at the time of settlement, that it's sent to the city and it triggers mechanisms within L&I and I guess finance for the licensing portion to issue a license, have that money collected for the business license at settlement, and a notice sent to L&I saying, hey, this is a new rental property that has recently changed hands or will be used as a rental. And L&I, here is information for the new owner, and to please send them, a welcome package outlining what their requirements are, setting them up for a rental inspection if necessary, and then giving them resources to say, here's the landlord tenant to it, et cetera. So I've actually had that conversation with Councilwoman Darby in regards to putting an ordinance like that together. But the short answer, once again, to Councilwoman Walsh's question, no, there is nothing currently that exchanges that type of information to disclose how properties will be used.
Thank you for that explanation. It helps to have experts in the meeting. And I think that would be a great idea, because if that disclosure was on there, it would really help, I'm sure, the L&I department and the real estate and just the whole city have a better handle on the rental inventory as we plan to move forward and really just do an audit of where the rentals are in the city and who is registered and who is not. Is there, okay, I see some hands. Council Member Walsh, I'll go with you first because
I just have a follow-up to the
Yes, go
answer.
ahead.
I'm not sure if we could do that as a city because we do not have our own court system. So anybody who didn't, this is all under the Landlord Tenant Act, the state Landlord Tenant Act. So I'm not sure that we would be able to do that on our own, which is why I was asking it on a state level.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And now I have Councilmember Darby, the sponsor. And if no one else has any other questions, we're going to finish it out with Councilmember Darby.
Yes. So I do want to mention about the rental, the settlement piece that is being worked on now. So everything Renee and I have been talking about back and forth, I sent up to the law department to start initiating drafting a resolution. So that is something that we all can work on together. So I'm excited for that and happy to really be on. Oh, no, I saw a message that law department should. Oh yeah, so I am willing to move forward with this legislation at this point. I guess that's the next step. And working to make sure that it is introduced hopefully this session, so that this is something that we can see hopefully by next year.
Great, thank you very much, Councilmember Darby. So at this point, not seeing any other questions, I am going to entertain a motion to move the resolution urging the Delaware General Assembly to enact legislation mandating landlords to have a valid business license in order to file a cause of action against tenants.
So moved.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It has properly been moved and second on the question. Okay, at this point, I will take a vote. All in favor, respond by saying aye or yes.
Need a vote, it's a resolution.
Aye.
No, I'm sorry.
This needs to be.
Someone have something to say? Hello? Okay. Anyone in?
A resolution's only reviewed, doesn't.
Okay, all right. Okay, we don't have to vote on it, so it's just a review. Okay, that's a chair error there. We're getting used to this, getting back in the flow of things here. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next agenda item. Thank you, Ms. Washington. Now we have ordinance 21-015, an ordinance to approve the Riverside Phase 2 Major Subdivision Plan of the Wilmington Housing Authority and Penrose LLC, and to authorize the City of Wilmington to accept as a public right-of-way the dedication of a new section of East 28th Street. Who will speak to this ordinance?
I will, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have some one from the planning department that was speaking up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that Mr. Lucas? Will you be
Yes,
speaking
ma'am.
to this?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lucas, please proceed.
Okay, good evening, Madam Chair, council members, and other attendees. My name is Tim Lucas. I'm a planner with the city's Department of Planning and Development, and I'm here to present ordinance 21-15. Quick background: in the fall of 2020, the Wilmington Housing Authority and Penrose LLC submitted a major subdivision application to the city to subdivide one non-contiguous parcel into 6 new parcels, and to dedicate a new section of East 28th Street to the city as a public right-of-way. This subdivision involves one non-contiguous 18.83 acre parcel located between North Claymont Street, Edgemore Avenue, East 23rd Street, and Todd's Lane. The site occupies portions of 5 separate city blocks. The entire site is zoned R5A or low-density apartment housing. The subdivision plan proposes to subdivide the subject parcel into parcels A, B Part 1, B Part 2, C, D, and E, as well as a new section of city right-of-way. The newly proposed section of East 28th Street will be approximately 450 feet long and will connect Rosemont Avenue with Edgemore Avenue. Once built to all city standards and requirements of the Department of Public Works, it will be conveyed to the city. So in November of 2020, the Planning Department performed a technical review of the subdivision plan and proposed right-of-way. The department circulated the plan to other city departments for review and comment. Department of Public Works stated that they are in support of the new city street segment, as there were no findings to suggest that the acceptance of a new section of East 28th Street will in any way be detrimental to the surrounding properties or the public. On November 17th, 2020, the City Planning Commission reviewed the plan and adopted Resolution 21-20, which recommends the approval of the applicant's request. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas, for that presentation. Are there any questions that council members might have of Mr. Lucas in reference to this ordinance? I see a hand raised here. Let's see, who is that? That would be Councilmember Spadola. Proceed, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No question, just I have a conflict of interest here, so I'm going to abstain.
Thank you, Councilmember Spadola. Any other council members that might have a question in reference to this? Okay, at this point, I will entertain any questions from the public. Okay, not seeing any questions from the public, we will go ahead and proceed. Can I get a motion to move forward ordinance 21-015, an ordinance to approve the Riverside Phase 2 major subdivision plan of the Wilmington Housing Authority, Ed Penrose LLC, and to authorize the city of Wilmington to accept as a public right-of-way the dedication of a new section of East 28th Street. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Hey, Spadola.
Mr. Spadola is abstaining. He has a conflict. Any other members of council that can move, second it?
I second it.
Thank you. It has properly been moved in second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Abstain.
We're going to move on now. And Mr. Spadola is abstained. Thank you. We're going to move forward to a resolution encouraging the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Land Bank and the City of Wilmington Department of Real Estate and Housing to more aggressively market vacant lots in their inventory for the purpose of building affordable homes. Who would speak to this resolution?
I will, Madam Chair. Councilwoman Zanthia Alva. This resolution encourages Wilmington City Real Estate and Housing and the Wilmington Conservatory Land Bank to aggressively market the vacant lots. So I would like to say one of the reasons for this piece of resolution is just to encourage the city and the land bank to put up just some for sale signs for various lots around the city of Wilmington. So if we have some developers that are interested in buying the lots, they don't know if the lots are for sale if you don't see a for sale sign out there. So
thank you for that description.
If someone's interested in purchasing a lot, I mean, it's real simple. If someone's interested in, because most of the lots are for sale, but if you don't see a for sale sign, a developer gave me a call and I told him to call Real Estate and Housing, and it was something available. And I think they worked it out, and I think they end up purchasing it, whatever. But just an idea, if it's something that is available, it won't hurt just to put a for sale sign. That's all.
Thank you. At this point, I see questions. I will entertain questions from City Council, and I have Councilmember Darby starting us off. Go ahead, proceed, Ms. Darby.
Yes, I support this resolution. I think it's a great idea to put for sale signs up on these vacant lot areas. I just have a question about I know this is just a resolution, but how do we, like as a council or whoever, administration, how do we make sure that the land bank actually does this?
Madam Chair,
let's say it's passing.
Would you like to answer that? Would the sponsor like to answer that?
yes, I don't know, we may have somebody on. Yeah, we hear you. I think we may have somebody on here from the land bank. I mean, they currently, it's no secret that the lots that's available, it's listed on their website, but when people ride by, you don't see it. And this is no jab at the land bank, because I think they're doing, the best they could do with what they're working with. But if somebody wants to just see a lot that's available for sale, I don't think it should hurt just to put a for sale sign up there, that's all. But how we control it, if someone's here from the land bank, we can ask them to, or from housing department, they can answer that.
I know that there's someone here that could speak in reference to the land bank, but I will share with you that, first of all, with resolutions, there is no enforcement. It's a resolution. It's something that we're asking that be done. We're encouraging people to do it. We have no legality in terms of enforcing it or, making sure that it gets done. Obviously, if there's lots that are for sale and people are interested in buying them and building on them, that's great. I do want to remind our council members that we do have a de-densification mandate in the city of Wilmington, especially in certain neighborhoods, because we are at such a high density, which is why, again, when a property is deemed vacant for over a year and it's a multi-family home, it reverts back to a single family home, because we are trying to de-densify the city. The other thing is that some of these lots, if you notice driving past them, they happen to be very narrow lots. So literally building a property on there would be very limited to some of them, not to say all of them. So I'm just going to speak to that portion of it. Remember our de-densification of the city. And second, is it feasible to even build on some of those lots? And can they be used in different ways as community spaces? But certainly we want to have more affordable housing and more housing stock in the city. We want to have home ownership, but at the same time, renters need a place to live. So those are the comments I'm going to make on this. Before, let's see, I have Council Member Dixon has her hand up if she could speak to this.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I just wanted to say to the sponsor, just to also, in addition to think about making sure that them putting up the lot saying it's for sale, that it's also consistent with the website as well for the land bank's website, just so that consistency is there. Because I know that's come up as an issue with some of the residents, is that, or people that's even buying properties, that they don't know what's for sale sometimes. So I think for consistency wise, if they're doing that, to make sure that it's consistent on both sides as far as what's for sale and making sure that that's available to the public.
Thank you, Councilmember Dixon. And I have Councilmember Oliver.
I was going to just reiterate that the resolution is just a formal expression of an opinion or intent to agree by legislative body. So as you said, it's just an action to try to solve a problem that you may hear from a constituent or civic association, et cetera, in your district. So it's just a resolution. It's not bonded and it's not law, but it's just trying to be community friendly. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Oliver. I have Council Member Brigida Fields. Councilmember Fields.
I'm sorry. Hi. Thank you, Councilwoman Chair. At first, I was going to kind of hold my comment, but I just would like to say, I know for the 5th district, we have gardens and they're being well taken care of. However, I have several vacant lots, and in a meeting yesterday, I can't think of his name, but I'll just say Mr. Ray from the land bank, he spoke about them taking care of those lots, making sure that they're taken care of. He sends someone every twice a week or whatever. But he did, my concern to him was, in the 5th district, we have a lot of vacant properties. We have a lot of lots. And if you notice, there's a study done throughout the Black and brown community where there's vacant lots and vacant homes, there's voter suppression. So I'm looking to build equitable housing in my district. I know some lots are small, some lots are narrow, some lots can be used for other things. However, he did mention that they could be used for a garden at one point, but then they're looking to build, it's not going to be a garden forever. They're looking to actually build on that property to make, for housing development. So, it doesn't have to stay a garden forever, but to make it to beautify your neighborhood and actually to help the neighbors and the constituents grow, have some food, to take back home. We're definitely looking to that for health reasons and things. I think that's good. But I think it's beneficial that we are notified, as Council Member Oliver said. The constituents want to know, the civic association wants to know, the council person wants to know, because not everybody is always in favor of certain things. So it has to be, it has to be a give and take, and we have to get a census from everyone to see if that's what they want. So, like she said, it's just a suggestion, but I think it's a good suggestion. And I know years ago and this is not for gardens, but I just knew that back in the day, you couldn't even bring a developer couldn't even come in a neighborhood without attending a civic association meeting and getting that approval. So I just think it's, I just think it's just beneficial, and say, hey, just think about this before you start doing it.
So thank you, Council Member Fields. I believe you are also speaking to the next resolution, which might be the garden spaces, because this one is about encouraging building, or at least publicizing the availability of these properties by just making it just publicized that they are available for sale.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That's the wrong
That's
one.
okay,
Okay.
because listen, we got your comments for the next one. Mr. Gesner did reach his hand, and he is with the land bank. He is the chair of the board, and he will speak to us. Mr. Gesner, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to give you some background, the land bank started in 2018, and during our first fiscal year, we repurposed 9 properties. In 2020, with 10 months of COVID, we were able to repurpose 55 properties. That's done with a fairly limited budget and a very dedicated staff of 2 people. And just to give you some perspective, that's 55 properties repurposed when we have currently 207 properties, 95 lots, and 112 structures. So, I think we did a fairly good job in marketing. In 2019, we had over 6 community meetings with over 300 attendees, but we were unable to do that last year due to COVID. We have changed our strategy somewhat, in that we are focusing in on specific neighborhoods each month. All of our properties that are available are listed on our website. We also hold a weekly Zoom call. It's actually going on as we speak. It's 6 to 7 p.m. every Thursday evening. And again, we're more than willing to work with City Council. You have 2 members on our board, City Council President Congo and City Councilman Johnson. Both are members of the Wilmington Neighborhood Conservancy Land Bank Board. And so we'll continue to reach out to you. We think we've got a good strategy on marketing. And we will continue that, and we are always open to new suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gessner, for sharing that information with us. And yeah, we hope that as we move forward, that the land bank is definitely a great tool that we have here in Wilmington to help us get fair and affordable housing and home buyership. Is there any other questions? I have Councilmember Oliver. Go ahead.
No, I'll wait to,
Okay, you can have the last word. Is there anyone else from City Council that has a question or a comment? And I will open it up to the public and then bring it back to Councilmember Oliver. Okay, not seeing anyone's hands raised. Anyone from the public that would like to make a comment at this time? Okay, I see a hand raised, and that would be Mr. Brian O'Neill.
Hey guys, I may be missing something with the land bank failing to market their properties. I see all around the city, east side and west side, a number of investors who are just going at the renovations. Some of them I know and some of them I don't know. Some out-of-state investors, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. I would hope that they will bring these properties up to good condition, improve home ownership, maybe mix in some rental property also, which I think that may be part of the objective. So from an investor whose feet or boots are on the ground every day, I do see a lot of improvements happening. I may be missing something here for a need for additional marketing. I think in the past years, specifically, that they've done a tremendous job with getting the word out. I know I get calls on a regular basis from people who ask me how to buy land bank properties. I said, just call them, get your name on the list, get active with them. So, I'd like to give them kudos for, what they've accomplished, at least in the past year and a half of ramping things up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill, for your comments. At this point, I'd like to call on Councilmember Darby.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I do want to say that the city has done a lot of development, but it's only happening in certain districts or certain neighborhoods. There's a lot of neighborhoods. It looks like a bomb went through it, and no attention has been placed on certain neighborhoods and certain areas of Wilmington. So yes, development is happening. Yes, investors are coming in, but they're not investing into certain communities that are largely from lower economic status or Black and very brown communities. It is not happening on the large grand scale like it's happening in other neighborhoods of Wilmington. So it's great that it's happening, but it's not being evenly dispersed.
Thank you, Councilmember Darby. Councilmember Oliver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to reply to Mr. O'Neill. I think he misunderstood, or he's looking at the wrong resolution. As I stated at the very beginning, a resolution is just a formal expression of opinion or intention by a body, a legislative body. It's just an action to solve a problem. And maybe he missed it. This says more aggressive markets for vacant lots. I'm not talking about the houses. I think the land bank has done an outstanding job. I know several people who have purchased houses. You see, we're going all over the city. I wasn't even going to go there. But I was talking about the vacant lots because I had two people call me, to be frank, from over the west side. I don't know if they work for West Center City or somewhere over in that area, that rode by and inquired about a lot. They called housing department. The guy left me a message and said, thank you very much. I was able to talk to the housing department and everything worked out. I appreciate you directing me to the right person. So I was just making a statement. If there are lots, not by just the land bank, this is also the housing department of the city of Wilmington. If they own a lot, when they get a chance, just making a suggestion, just to put a for sale sign. And that's all it was. But since you mentioned that, I have to agree with Councilwoman Darby. That wasn't my even conversation tonight, but there is a lot of development going on throughout the city, but you don't see a lot of development going on in I'm gonna be specific in the 3rd district. I have vacant properties everywhere, vacant lots everywhere. And I've been studying this for over 2 years now, trying to get people to purchase these houses and fix them up. And where I hear people saying it's the lot is small, you can't build a house. I disagree with that. If you tore down a house can be put there. And they also have something called tiny houses. And also in the study, I want to say Ohio, I can come back to that, but in another state that where they took down lots or they took down mobile homes, they put mobile homes back. We're not talking about mobile homes, but in that instance, so I keep hearing, oh, it's small, it's not. No, people lived in that house. My house is small, it's a 2-bedroom, but if you tear it down, what might look small to you is not small to another person. So you may be used to living in a $500,000 house. Mine might be 50. So if you come over there and look small to you, you may just want to tear it down. But it may be a developer out there and say, look, give me that house for $1. And I go in there and renovate the whole house. I mean, is he wrong because he wants to renovate a whole small house? And that wasn't where I was going. Let me stick to the legislation. This is strictly, it says market vacant lots. So Madam Chair, that's all I was talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Oliver, for the clarification. And I think that just in general, people are seeing that there is some positive activity taking place in the city. And yes, we can't mandate where people choose to buy, fix up, and rent, but I am hoping that some of these neighborhoods where we do need development, that does take place and that we have housing available. And one of the things I will put out there that came up today in a discussion is that although, yes, we want to have less rentals and more home ownership, we got to face it. We're going through a huge pandemic, a once in a century pandemic. People may not even have the resources to buy homes right now, but what we do have is people that are homeless and people who need housing. And right now, just to find a decent rental property in the city of Wilmington is a challenge, let alone to buy a property. So as much as I know we want to just sell these land bank properties, that we need to look at the fact that maybe we need to develop some of these properties and make them available for rental, because we do have a housing shortage and people are still trying to get out of transitional housing and to get homes. So just something I'd like to put out there. At this point, Councilmember Oliver, you do have the last word. If you have nothing else to add, we can go ahead and move the resolution. We'll go ahead and present it in the next meeting and go on to the next one.
We can move it. It's just a suggestion. As I said, this is no blow at the land bank. I think they're doing an outstanding job over there for with the little bit they're working with. It was just brought to my attention about a lot, so I thought I would just mention it. And I had a long discussion with several people throughout the administration just to back that up. So it wasn't like I just made this up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Not seeing any other questions from the public or from council members, we're going to proceed to the next and the last agenda item. This has been quite a robust discussion with this meeting. It'll be the resolution urging that no further community gardens be established on undeveloped lots without the approval of the city council member for the district, the appropriate neighborhood planning council, and civic association.
Now you have the wrong piece of legislation. It's been revamped.
This is the latest agenda that I was sent at 11:20 a.m.
No, that's not correct. Nope.
All right, well, let's go here. Let's see.
Are you?
I'm looking at it. Yeah, I'm looking at the last agenda item. This is the last.
Okay, continue.
The last agenda that I was emailed. If you could go ahead and speak to it.
Okay, now what I'm reading, the resolution encourages individuals and organizations who wish to set up community gardens to actively engage with the community where the garden is to be located. Engaging with the community before starting a new garden will improve the likelihood of long-term stability for new gardens and addressing common worries, including year-round for pest control. And it's, you're right, Maria, something else is missing because on it says to reach out to your the Civic Association. So we have had a lot of conversations about this. I received several calls today, and the calls that I received were telling me that I should have put in there that whoever's not maintaining a lot, they should get a fine. But that's not what this is about. This is also a resolution, just a formal expression of an opinion or intention agreed by legislative body action to try to solve a problem. But I want to start off saying this started with the 3rd district. Now, this is what I am passionate about, and we can have a real conversation about this. I have I've been talking to, this is not nothing that just started, this has been going on for over 2 years. I think me and Councilwoman Harley rode around, we've been discussing it, had a long conversation with former Councilman Vass Turner, who called me today and and told me that he was glad to see it on the agenda. People can agree to disagree, but we can still have a conversation. What does this resolution do? It would, I would like to say that it started out with the 3rd district and individuals calling me in the 3rd district, particularly on the north side, stating that they came outside. Lady on Vanderbilt Avenue, she was just on here. Somehow she got deleted as a host. Another lady on the north side said they tore down the house. They came outside. It was a garden there. She's 80 years old. She does gardening. She's not against gardening. With that being said, I asked Tom Ogden to take a ride with me on the north side. We rode on the north side. Xanthia, I see where you're coming from. How can you build a healthy community when you tear down a house, you put a garden, it's another house, it's a garden. So at that point, I did some more research and I looked up the difference in a garden and a farm. So we have to remember, I would not like to see the 3rd district in the north area become a farm. I think it should be nothing against neighborhood gardens. I love them, I participate in them, but we cannot allow gardens in between people's homes and they don't know they're there. I just think a person should be notified, it's just my opinion, that through a civic association, not through the council person, not through the neighborhood planning council, but I think as a courtesy to our constituents and our residents, if someone's going to put, and I supported it, I think Matt, I think he did a great job over there, but what I didn't support is to come back 2 months later and see more lots around the lot that I was in favor of. I have people who own houses over there calling me up and say, Dawn, Xanthia, what is going over here? Every other corner is a community garden. Why aren't individuals putting housing back up here? I said, well, look, I don't know. You have to call the city. You have to call whoever. Do you know any developers? Yes, I do know some developers, but when the developers ride by, they do not see a for sale sign. So there I go again with the for sale sign, okay? Now I ride through the 3rd district, specifically the 3rd district, and I see 15 neighborhood gardens. Some are small, some are big. I support them. You go over the 11th Street Bridge by Eric Robinson Farm Garden. Great. They have a lock on it. Everybody over there participates. The problem is not the neighborhood gardens. They're not being maintained. So I have to address it because I have over 1,000 signatures of individuals talking about raccoons, rodents, rats, possums running through their neighborhood. Now, I think the city really did a good job. They had put some money in the budget. Jeff Starkey's department. Jeff Starkey will tell you he was using a private contractor to come out to get possums. Some of the raccoons even had rabies. I didn't even realize they running around in the daytime, people taking pictures on Facebook. So we as city council need to address that. And if it's coming from individuals who are doing the gardening, which starts out good, but in the winter, they don't clean them out. So now you're leaving the cabbage or the tomato plants, whatever you're leaving under there, it's just drawing. I know with the habitat they're running, but it's infested. The 3rd district is infested with possums and raccoons. So that's where I'm coming from, not from anything else. This is on your resolution. If your area, if it doesn't pertain to your area, it doesn't pertain to you, but it pertains to the 3rd district. Anytime I have over 1,000 signatures, which I have given to Senator Brown, and he's talking to Lisa Blunt Rochester, hopefully to try to see if we could get some money, because these raccoons are not just in the 3rd district, they're running throughout the state because of our habitat. But on top of that, we have so many gardens over there that it's you go right over Northeast area, it's a farm. It's no longer even stable houses. If it's not a vacant property, it's a lot. Vacant property, a lot. And it's no longer stable property. So I'm hoping the city of Wilmington will focus on the northeast area as they focused on the west side area and help get our neighborhoods back together. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just making a suggestion.
Thank you, Council Member Oliver, for very passionately bringing to our attention that as much as we want to green the city and have these spaces, there's also an amount of responsibility that comes with it. And I'm all for gardening. I'm all for having access to green foods, especially in neighborhoods where we know we have a food desert in Wilmington. But it does come with responsibilities. I do want to add that as for example, the Land Bank Conservancy, one of their missions is more of the greening of Wilmington. However, the Land Bank themselves, for any spaces that they have that they are greening, they do have a contractor and they have people that are responsible for maintaining their properties. So I just wanted to add that part there because I know that that is an initiative that is part of what the Land Bank Conservancy is doing. But in the meantime, we do have a lot of neighborhood gardens that were probably started by well-intentioned people who have not kept them up, or maybe neighbors who are no longer able to keep them up, or they've moved out of the area. And as Councilmember Oliver mentioned, it is a resolution encouraging that when a new garden is going to be instituted, that they would at least let the stakeholders in the community know, and that there should be a plan of how that garden is going to maintain. I am in support of that. I do believe it's respectful, and there's such a thing that could be excess, especially if it's not being maintained. At this time, I would entertain any questions from other council members. I see Council Member Field has his hand up. I will start with the council members and then proceed to the public. Council Member Nathan Field, go ahead and speak.
Yeah, I had a good conversation with Council Member Oliver today, and I want to speak out in support of this. And I also want to emphasize one of the key points. What Council Member Oliver is asking for is just good process and good communication. And I think at all levels of our country right now, we need to do better at communication. And no one's against community gardens. I think they're a great idea, but there shouldn't be a situation where somebody wakes up one day and all of a sudden there's a new community garden next to their house that they had no idea about. So what Council Member Oliver is really just asking is, let's strengthen the civic groups and have more conversations out there. Get these conversations in front of the neighbors. Just more transparency and better communication. And I think if we can do that, that would solve a lot of the problem. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Member Field. I second everything you said. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this from council? If not, I will proceed to the public. Okay, Councilman Spadola.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think I had a conversation with Councilwoman Oliver about some of my concerns about it. And it sounds like Councilmember Walsh had already brought them up, and specifically about the requirement, or not the requirement, the suggestion that the district council person approve it, as well as the Civic Association and the NPC. And my specific concern was, it's 13 of us were elected in November, not just 8 local district people. So I thought that was a little discriminatory to the at-large people. But she had already taken it out. So she was just very willing to work with the at-large members on it. And it's just a suggestion, very innocuous legislation. So happy to support it. I shouldn't say it's not legislation; it's a resolution.
It's resolution, yes. And I appreciate your comments as well. I myself am willing to support it. I'm just just don't have an updated agenda to give it the title, because it wasn't changed in the agenda I was sent. But yes, I'm definitely supporting it. And Council Member Fields would like to make some comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have any comments. I just want you to take my comment from the other resolution and put it on this one.
There we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, this Council Member Fields already spoke to this in the previous one. Not seeing any other comments, I will go ahead and state that we're going to move forward with this resolution and present it at the next council meeting. Unless the sponsor has any closing words, we have gotten through our agenda this evening. Are there any? Okay, someone has their hand raised. I want to give everybody an opportunity. We have Miss Shyanne Miller would like to make a comment. You may proceed, Miss Miller.
Hi, I'm speaking as a member of the 7th District, Shyanne Miller. I think this resolution has some points behind it that are important, that there is community engagement before a garden is put up. I'd also like to encourage City Council to ensure that they're providing opportunities for people to be able to create community gardens without barriers. This is definitely a resolution that could be perceived as creating barriers to creating community gardens. I can say, as a resident of the city and as a member of, of 7th District, I've lived on different parts of the city outside of this district as well. And I'm a member of the Black community, and I've seen many community gardens put up by white nonprofits that come in and don't ask for permission to put those community gardens up. And who knows what happens to them. So, I would hate to see that now that this community garden craze has gone further and the Black community wants to be able to own and be able to create spaces like that that are Black owned and Black ran, that there are any perceptions from the Black community that now the city does not encourage them. And so I would also encourage the city to put forth some real ordinances that support community garden and beautification of the community, to ensure that this doesn't get perceived by the Black community as, oh, well, it's cool when a nonprofit does it, but as it gets popular and Black people want to do it, it's not. So just want to say that out loud, hoping that that will be considered.
Thank you, Ms. Miller, for your comments. As someone who actually wants to lead an initiative to have more access to food and to have actual vegetable gardens where people are growing their food in the community, I do agree with Ms. Miller. We do not want to give the appearance that we want to impede anyone, whoever they may be, in having gardens and greening Wilmington. I believe there's a lot that we can do with our spaces, but we also have to take into consideration that good intentions, and then what happens when you start the garden, you start the project, and there's no accountability to the people who started it, or they walk away from it, and then we're left behind with an unkept garden where things can grow out of control. So it is about balance. We don't want to discourage any gardening among anyone, and we certainly want to encourage more of it. But I do completely understand Ms. Oliver's, Councilmember Oliver's concerns that she's in a neighborhood where there's a lot of them and they're not being kept up, and it's causing some other issues in that neighborhood. I see that there are 2 more members from the public that would like to speak. We have Miss Christina Kay, and then we have Mr. Kyle Shepard. Miss Christina, you can go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Chairwoman. My name is Christina Kelly. I'm in the 2nd District, and I just wanted to kind of echo on Cheyenne's comments. I agree that this could be unintentionally a barrier to others in other districts that wish to put community gardens in place unintentionally again. But I also don't see how placing the resolution on file is going to prevent Councilwoman Oliver's stated issues from continuing to occur in the first place. If there's no actionable item to it, if there's nothing that says, we're going to allow X amount of gardens or disallow, anything over X amount, it just seems like it's a waste of time and not a piece of common sense legislation. Instead, it seems like it is, a barrier for people who want to start these community gardens and feel like they're not going to have the support of their of the city because of things like this being on record. So that's all that I wanted to say, and I appreciate the time.
You're most welcome. Thank you for speaking. And the next person would be Mr. Shepherd.
Good evening, Kyle Shepherd. Just for the record, pronouns that would be preferred would be they, them, unless stated otherwise. Thank you for having time today for this public comment. I want to, I guess, echo off some of the two previous public comments in terms of this particular resolution. I think I'm glad that there's some effort to monitor public engagement as well as the environmental justice impacts. It seems like for good initiatives, specifically those of a community garden, and also thinking back to some of the comments that took place earlier today about whether or not what's being detailed within a particular bill, text, or resolution is actually going to carry weight in the outcomes with which is coming after the fact. I'm not sure that that emphasis is being captured best within this particular text if the emphasis is more so on the long-term impact as well as sustainability, as well as what does looking like partnerships to support and maintain what that looks like. The way this reads and intended at the beginning seems more reactionary rather than supporting initiatives that may be existing, as well as if there are people within the community, residents within the community who are finding a way to get that done. And then going back to the environmental justice ramifications, glad to see that there's people across the committee concerned about the health implications of residents within properties within the city. That's good to know. So I wonder what then could that mean with the other legislation pieces.
Can I please have the title?
Sorry about that. So I wonder what that could mean as well for the other legislative pieces that the full council seeks to implement, and how much more proactive effort we could then take when before something is enacted, that there's a deep and thorough level of public will accrued, whether that's 1,000+ signatures, whether that's the health implications or an equity impact assessment and how things may look like before we put things into particular communities, who will benefit from them, how will it decrease disparities within a population. I think all those things at the front end is a great investment, and I'm glad to hear that there is a swell of committee members supporting something on this record. So I think that this is a good lane to transition that with every other piece of legislation or resolution and suggestion as well. And again, I think that health equity impact assessment would be very beneficial if we're looking to collect public will as well as the long-term ramifications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shepherd. That was well said. And definitely, I believe the intent, and and I know for myself supporting this, the intent is to make sure that there's accountability and that we're able to proceed as with anything else. There should be a plan, because even a good thing can go south if it's not maintained, if it's not handled correctly. If not seeing any other questions from council members or from the public, we will go ahead and proceed. If the sponsor, oh wait, we have a hand. If at this point, the sponsor will have the last word and speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just appreciate everyone's input tonight. As I said, it's just open conversation. It's just a suggestion. I spoke to Ms. Kelly earlier, and she had suggested that I should put fines on individuals who don't keep up their gardens. And I told her that wasn't the purpose of this resolution. So if someone else wishes to put in something to fine individuals, that's not what I'm going to do. That's not what I plan on doing. I just wanted to bring awareness of an issue that's close to my heart. I don't think with the pandemic and all the problems that we have now that I would try to mandate some fines on individuals who's not keeping up their gardens. I think we have conversation, horticulture is going to be involved with the conversation as well as Parks and Recreation. So I was just trying to handle it in a transparent way for everybody to feel comfortable and just to get the conversation going. Maybe you could tell a friend, because everybody may know someone who's doing a garden, involved with a garden. Hey, look, just start when the weather changes. Let's clean it out, put some dirt on it, and let's not leave that maintained food in there for individuals to have to go through the rodents with the raccoons, etc., that some individuals are living. And certain areas, they may have foxes running through there, and in certain areas we have raccoons and possums. So that's my only point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council Member Oliver. So at this point, I would just like to say that just want to kind of repeat what the legislation is going to do. The resolution, and that is a resolution urging that before community gardens are developed, they should present a plan for maintenance to the Civic Association. So that is a little different. That's a synopsis of what originally was stated, which made it sound, I can understand by reading the name where it would make it sound like we were maybe trying to dissuade people from having community gardens. So I do want to clarify that I did not have the correct title on my current agenda, but that Council Member Oliver went ahead and restated this differently, that it's really about encouraging any future community gardens. We don't want to discourage them, but that they should come together with a plan. They should include the stakeholders in those neighborhoods. So at this point, we have gone through our agenda items. I want to thank everyone for joining us today in this robust discussion with this Community Development and Urban Planning meeting. I am now going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. It has been properly moved in second, and this concludes the meeting of the Community Development Urban Planning Committee. Councilwoman Cabrera here, and all my council members, thank you for joining us. Most importantly, the public, thank you for tuning in, for watching, and for your comments. We truly appreciate you being engaged. Until then, God bless, stay safe, and we'll be with you soon. Please join us at the next council meeting, March 18th, when the mayor will give his address. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.